Have you ever been too nice for your own good? If you are like most people, you probably think that kindness is a virtue and that being kind to others is always a good thing. But what if I told you that kindness can also ruin your life? Yes, you heard me right. Being too kind can have serious negative consequences for your well-being, happiness, and success. For example, you might be taken advantage of, lose respect, feel guilty, or compromise your values. In this video, I will show you 10 ways how kindness will ruin your life. Don't worry, I'm not telling you to stop being kind, but rather to be more mindful and selective about when and how to show kindness. So, if you want to learn how to balance kindness with wisdom, stay tuned and watch this video until the end. And don't forget to comment, like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Let's get started. 1. Kindness will make you a doormat. Imagine that you are walking on the street and you see a homeless person asking for money. You feel sorry for him and you decide to give him some change. But then he asks for more and more and more, until you have nothing left in your wallet. How would you feel? This is an extreme example, but it illustrates how being too kind can make you a doormat. A doormat is someone who lets other people walk all over them without standing up for themselves or their rights. A doormat is someone who has no self-respect or boundaries and who always puts other people's needs before their own. Being a doormat can have many negative consequences for your life. For instance, you might lose your identity and sense of self-worth as you always conform to other people's expectations and opinions. Feel resentful and angry as you never get what you want or need from others. Attract abusive and manipulative people who will exploit your kindness and generosity. Miss out on opportunities and experiences as you always say yes to everything, even if it doesn't align with your goals or values. Suffer from stress and burnout as you take on too much responsibility and workload without asking for help or support. So, how can you avoid being a doormat and still be kind? Here are some tips. Learn to say no. Saying no is not rude or selfish. It is a way of respecting yourself and your limits. You can say no politely and firmly without feeling guilty or apologetic. Set healthy boundaries. Boundaries are the rules and limits that you set for yourself and others to protect your well-being and happiness. You can communicate your boundaries clearly and calmly without being aggressive or defensive. Assert yourself. Assertiveness is the ability to express your feelings, opinions, and needs without violating the rights of others. You can be assertive without being rude or arrogant by using I statements, such as I feel, I think, or I need. Respect yourself. Self-respect is the recognition of your own worth and dignity, regardless of what others think or say. You can respect yourself by taking care of your physical, mental, and emotional health, and by pursuing your passions and interests. By following these tips, you can be kind without being a doormat. You can be kind without losing your self-respect and boundaries. Now let's move on to the next way, how kindness will ruin your life. 2. Kindness will make you a pushover. Imagine that you are at work and your boss asks you to do a project that is not part of your job description. You don't have the time, the skills, or the interest to do it, but you don't want to disappoint your boss. So you agree to do it, even though it means working overtime, neglecting your other tasks, and stressing yourself out. How would you feel? This is another example of how being too kind can make you a pushover. A pushover is someone who always gives in to other people's demands and expectations without considering their own preferences and priorities. A pushover is someone who has no backbone or courage, and who always does what others want them to do. Being a pushover can have many negative consequences for your life. You might lose your autonomy and freedom as you always follow other people's agendas and plans. Feel frustrated and dissatisfied as you never pursue your own goals and dreams. Lose your credibility and respect as you never stand up for yourself or your opinions. Compromise your quality and performance as you take on more than you can handle and do things that you are not good at or passionate about. Damage your relationships and reputation as you become unreliable, inconsistent, and dishonest. So how can you avoid being a pushover and still be kind? Here are some tips. Learn to say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is not selfish or arrogant. It is a way of honoring yourself and your values. You can say yes to yourself by choosing what makes you happy and fulfilled, and by pursuing your own passions and interests. Learn to negotiate. Negotiating is not rude or greedy. It is a way of finding a win-win solution for both parties. You can negotiate by expressing your needs and wants, and by listening to the other person's needs and wants, and by finding a common ground or a compromise. Learn to delegate. Delegating is not lazy or irresponsible. It is a way of managing your time and resources effectively. You can delegate by identifying the tasks that you can or should do, and by assigning the tasks that you can't or shouldn't do to someone else who can or should do them. Learn to respect yourself. Respecting yourself is not prideful or stubborn. It is a way of acknowledging your own worth and abilities. You can respect yourself by setting realistic and achievable goals, and by celebrating your achievements and successes. By following these tips, you can be kind without being a pushover. You can be kind without losing your autonomy and freedom. Let's continue with the next way, how kindness will ruin your life. 3. Kindness will make you a martyr. Imagine that you are at home and your family asks you to do a favor for them. You don't mind helping them out, but you also have some important things to do for yourself. But you don't want to let them down, so you agree to do the favor, even though it means sacrificing your own plans, hobbies, and interests. How would you feel? This is yet another example of how being too kind can make you a martyr. A martyr is someone who always sacrifices their own needs and happiness for others without expecting anything in return. A martyr is someone who has no self-love or self-care, and who always puts other people's happiness before their own. Being a martyr can have many negative consequences for your life. You might lose your joy and passion as you always neglect your own plans, hobbies, and interests. Feel depressed and hopeless as you never experience any fulfillment or satisfaction from your own actions. Attract needy and demanding people who will drain your energy and resources and never appreciate your efforts. Miss out on opportunities and experiences as you always put other people's priorities before your own. Suffer from health problems as you ignore your own physical, mental, and emotional needs and never seek help or support. So how can you avoid being a martyr and still be kind? Here are some tips. Learn to love yourself. Loving yourself is not selfish or narcissistic. It is a way of accepting yourself and your values. You can love yourself by being grateful for what you have and by being proud of who you are. Learn to balance. Balancing is not selfish or indifferent. It is a way of finding harmony between your own needs and happiness and those of others. You can balance by giving and receiving, and by helping and being helped. Learn to prioritize. Prioritizing is not selfish or rude. It is a way of managing your time and resources effectively. You can prioritize by identifying what is important and urgent, and by focusing on what matters most to you and others. Learn to care for yourself. Caring for yourself is not selfish or lazy. It is a way of maintaining your well-being and happiness. You can care for yourself by taking breaks, relaxing, and having fun. By following these tips, you can be kind without being a martyr. You can be kind without losing your joy and passion. Now let's move on to the next way, how kindness will ruin your life. 4. Kindness will make you a liar. Imagine that you are at a party and your friend asks you to give your honest opinion about their new outfit. You don't like it at all, but you don't want to hurt their feelings. So you lie and say that it looks great, even though it doesn't suit them at all. How would you feel? This is one more example of how being too kind can make you a liar. A liar is someone who always hides their true feelings and opinions without being authentic or sincere. A liar is someone who has no integrity or honesty and who always says what others want to hear. Being a liar can have many negative consequences for your life. You might lose your identity and sense of self, as you always pretend to be someone you are not. Feel guilty and ashamed, as you always betray your own values and principles. Lose your trust and respect, as you always deceive and manipulate others. Miss out on opportunities and experiences, as you always avoid conflicts and challenges. Damage your relationships and reputation, as you become unreliable, inconsistent, and dishonest. So, how can you avoid being a liar and still be kind? Here are some tips. Learn to be honest. Being honest is not harmful or offensive. It is a way of being respectful and responsible. You can be honest without being rude or arrogant by using I statements such as I feel, I think, or I prefer. Learn to be tactful. Being tactful is not dishonest or manipulative. It is a way of being considerate and diplomatic. You can be tactful without being fake or insincere by using positive and constructive feedback such as I like, I suggest, or I appreciate. Learn to be courageous. Being courageous is not reckless or irresponsible. It is a way of being confident and assertive. You can be courageous without being foolish or impulsive by using logic and evidence such as I know, I believe, or I can. Learn to be yourself. Being yourself is not selfish or stubborn. It is a way of being authentic and unique. You can be yourself without being isolated or alienated by using empathy and humor such as I understand, I relate, or I joke. By following these tips, you can be kind without being a liar. You can be kind without losing your integrity and honesty. Let's continue with the next way, how kindness will ruin your life. 5. Kindness will make you a fool. Imagine that you are online and you see an advertisement for a product that promises to solve all your problems. You are skeptical, but you also want to give it a chance, so you click on the link and you enter your personal and financial information. But then you realize that it was a scam and you just lost your money and your identity. How would you feel? This is another example of how being too kind can make you a fool. A fool is someone who always trusts people who don't deserve it, without being cautious or skeptical. A fool is someone who has no wisdom or discernment and who always falls for tricks and traps. Being a fool can have many negative consequences for your life. You might lose your money and resources, as you always waste them on things that are not worth it. Feel embarrassed and humiliated, as you always make mistakes and blunders. Lose your safety and security, as you always expose yourself to risks and dangers. Miss out on opportunities and experiences, as you always settle for less than you deserve. Damage your relationships and reputation, as you become gullible, naive, and foolish. So how can you avoid being a fool and still be kind? Here are some tips. Learn to be skeptical. Being skeptical is not cynical or paranoid. It is a way of being curious and critical. You can be skeptical without being negative or hostile by using questions and doubts such as why, how, or what if. Learn to be informed. Being informed is not boring or tedious. It is a way of being knowledgeable and aware. You can be informed without being overwhelmed or confused by using sources and facts such as who, what, or when. Learn to be prudent. Being prudent is not timid or cowardly. It is a way of being careful and sensible. You can be prudent without being fearful or hesitant by using rules and limits such as do, don't, or should. Learn to be smart. Being smart is not arrogant or conceited. It is a way of being intelligent and clever. You can be smart without being isolated or alienated by using skills and strategies such as can, will, or how. By following these tips, you can be kind without being a fool. You can be kind without losing your wisdom and discernment. Now let's move on to the next way how kindness will ruin your life. 6. Kindness will make you a bore. Imagine that you are on a date and your partner asks you to tell them something interesting about yourself. You don't have anything to say because you never do anything interesting. You always do what others expect you to do, and you never try anything new or different. How would you feel? This is one more example of how being too kind can make you a bore. A bore is someone who always does the same thing, without being spontaneous or adventurous. A bore is someone who has no fun or excitement, and who always follows the rules and routines. Being a bore can have many negative consequences for your life. You might lose your creativity and passion, as you always stick to what you know and you never explore or experiment. Feel bored and unhappy, as you never experience any joy or satisfaction from your own actions. Lose your attractiveness and charm, as you never impress or surprise others. Miss out on opportunities and experiences, as you never take risks or challenges. Damage your relationships and reputation, as you become dull, predictable, and boring. So, how can you avoid being a bore and still be kind? Here are some tips. Learn to be spontaneous. Being spontaneous is not reckless or irresponsible. It is a way of being flexible and adaptable. You can be spontaneous without being impulsive or irrational by using intuition and instinct such as I feel, I want, or I wonder. Learn to be adventurous. Being adventurous is not dangerous or foolish. It is a way of being curious and brave. You can be adventurous without being risky or careless by using preparation and caution such as I plan, I check, or I watch. Learn to be fun. Being fun is not childish or immature. It is a way of being playful and joyful. You can be fun without being silly or annoying by using humor and creativity, such as I joke, I imagine, or I create. Learn to be yourself. Being yourself is not selfish or stubborn. It is a way of being authentic and unique. You can be yourself without being isolated or alienated by using empathy and humor, such as I understand, I relate, or I joke. By following these tips, you can be kind without being a bore. You can be kind without losing your fun and excitement. Let's continue with the next way, how kindness will ruin your life. 7. Kindness will make you a loser. Imagine that you are in a competition and your opponent is clearly better than you. You don't want to be rude or mean, so you decide to let them win, even though you have worked hard and prepared well. How would you feel? This is another example of how being too kind can make you a loser. A loser is someone who always gives up or gives in without being competitive or ambitious. A loser is someone who has no goals or achievements and who always settles for less than they deserve. Being a loser can have many negative consequences for your life. You might lose your motivation and drive, as you always accept defeat and failure, and you never strive for success and excellence. Feel inferior and insecure as you always compare yourself to others, and you never appreciate your own strengths and talents. Lose your opportunities and rewards as you always let others take what you want and need, and you never claim what you deserve and earn. Miss out on opportunities and experiences as you always avoid conflicts and challenges, and you never face or overcome them. Damage your relationships and reputation as you become passive, submissive, and unassertive. So, how can you avoid being a loser and still be kind? Here are some tips. Learn to be competitive. Being competitive is not greedy or ruthless. It is a way of being motivated and driven. You can be competitive without being unfair or aggressive by using rules and ethics, such as I follow, I respect, or I honor. Learn to be ambitious. Being ambitious is not arrogant or conceited. It is a way of being confident and assertive. You can be ambitious without being isolated or alienated by using goals and achievements such as I want, I can, or I did. Learn to be proud. Being proud is not prideful or stubborn. It is a way of being grateful and satisfied. You can be proud without being boastful or arrogant by using appreciation and recognition such as I thank, I praise, or I congratulate. Learn to be a winner. Being a winner is not selfish or mean. It is a way of being successful and excellent. You can be a winner without being a loser by using kindness and generosity such as I share, I help, or I inspire. By following these tips, you can be kind without being a loser. You can be kind without losing your motivation and drive. Now let's move on to the next way, how kindness will ruin your life. 8. Kindness will make you a hater. Imagine that you are in a relationship and your partner cheats on you. You are hurt and angry, but you don't want to be unkind or vengeful. So you forgive them and you try to make things work. But then they cheat on you again, and again, and again. How would you feel? This is yet another example of how being too kind can make you a hater. A hater is someone who always resents and blames others without being forgiving and compassionate. A hater is someone who has no peace or harmony and who always holds grudges and bitterness. Being a hater can have many negative consequences for your life. You might lose your love and happiness as you always focus on the negative aspects of others and you never appreciate their positive qualities. Feel angry and miserable as you always dwell on the past and the future and you never live in the present. Lose your health and well-being as you always release stress hormones and toxins and you never heal or recover. Miss out on opportunities and experiences as you always avoid or reject others and you never connect or collaborate with them. Damage your relationships and reputation as you become hostile, aggressive, and violent. So, how can you avoid being a hater and still be kind? Here are some tips. Learn to forgive. Forgiving is not weak or naive. It is a way of being strong and wise. You can forgive without forgetting or condoning by using empathy and understanding such as I feel, I know, or I accept. Learn to let go. Letting go is not cowardly or indifferent. It is a way of being courageous and free. You can let go without giving up or giving in by using detachment and acceptance such as I release, I allow, or I surrender. Learn to heal. Healing is not selfish or lazy. It is a way of being caring and responsible. You can heal without isolating or ignoring by using support and help, such as I seek, I receive, or I give. Learn to love. Loving is not foolish or blind. It is a way of being wise and kind. You can love without being a hater by using kindness and compassion, such as I understand, I forgive, or I wish. By following these tips, you can be kind without being a hater. You can be kind without losing your peace and harmony. Let's continue with the next way how kindness will ruin your life. 9. Kindness will make you a slave. Imagine that you are in a group and your leader asks you to do something that goes against your values and principles. You don't agree with it, but you don't want to be unkind or rebellious, so you obey and do what they say, even though it hurts you and others. How would you feel? This is one more example of how being too kind can make you a slave. A slave is someone who always depends and submits to others without being independent and assertive. A slave is someone who has no freedom or dignity and who always does what others tell them to do. Being a slave can have many negative consequences for your life. You might lose your identity and sense of self, as you always conform to other people's values and principles, and you never follow your own. Feel guilty and ashamed, as you always betray your own conscience and integrity, and you never stand up for what is right. Lose your power and influence, as you always give up your voice and choice, and you never express your own opinions and preferences. Miss out on opportunities and experiences, as you always follow other people's agendas and plans, and you never pursue your own goals and dreams. Damage your relationships and reputation, as you become dependent, submissive, and unassertive. So how can you avoid being a slave and still be kind? Here are some tips. Learn to be independent. Being independent is not selfish or arrogant. It is a way of being self-reliant and responsible. You can be independent without being isolated or alienated by using autonomy and self-determination, such as I choose, I decide, or I act. Learn to be assertive. Being assertive is not rude or aggressive. It is a way of being confident and respectful. You can be assertive without being hostile or defensive by using I statements such as I feel, I think, or I need. Learn to be free. Being free is not reckless or irresponsible. It is a way of being authentic and courageous. You can be free without being careless or impulsive by using values and principles such as I believe, I stand, or I defend. Learn to be yourself. Being yourself is not selfish or stubborn. It is a way of being authentic and unique. You can be yourself without being a slave by using kindness and generosity, such as I share, I help, or I inspire. By following these tips, you can be kind without being a slave. You can be kind without losing your freedom and dignity. Now let's move on to the next way how kindness will ruin your life. 10. Kindness will make you a sinner. Imagine that you are in a situation and you have to choose between doing what is right and doing what is kind. You know what is right, but you also want to be kind. So you do what is kind, even though it goes against what is right. How would you feel? This is the final example of how being too kind can make you a sinner. A sinner is someone who always compromises their values and principles without being loyal and consistent. A sinner is someone who has no morality or ethics and who always does what is easy and convenient. Being a sinner can have many negative consequences for your life. You might Lose your morality and ethics as you always violate your own conscience and integrity, and you never follow your own values and principles. Feel guilty and ashamed as you always do what is wrong and harmful, and you never do what is right and good. Lose your credibility and respect as you always deceive and manipulate others, and you never be honest and sincere. Miss out on opportunities and experiences as you always do what is safe and comfortable, and you never do what is challenging and rewarding. Damage your relationships and reputation as you become unreliable, inconsistent, and dishonest. So, how can you avoid being a sinner and still be kind? Here are some tips. Learn to be loyal. Being loyal is not rigid or dogmatic. It is a way of being faithful and trustworthy. You can be loyal without being blind or fanatical by using commitment and dedication such as I promise, I honor, or I fulfill. Learn to be consistent. Being consistent is not boring or tedious. It is a way of being reliable and dependable. You can be consistent without being dull or predictable by using logic and evidence such as I know, I believe, or I prove. Learn to be good. Being good is not naive or gullible. It is a way of being moral and ethical. You can be good without being a sinner by using kindness and generosity, such as I share, I help, or I inspire. Learn to be yourself. Being yourself is not selfish or stubborn. It is a way of being authentic and unique. You can be yourself without being a sinner by using values and principles such as I believe, I stand, or I defend. By following these tips, you can be kind without being a sinner. You can be kind without losing your morality and ethics. This concludes the 10 ways how kindness will ruin your life. With all that said, please continue watching the recommended videos now on your screen or check out one of the videos on our homepage. Thank you so much for watching.